Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I have recently read. Now, my original plan with my channel was to read a bunch of books, and then for the books I didn't do reviews on, I was going to do a blog post, but I realized that I really don't like blogging, so I'm going to leave that to the bloggers that we already have. But I do want to talk about the books I most recently read, so I'm going to do that. I also realized I don't really like TBRs because I don't want to read what I said I wanted to read. I want to read other stuff. So I'm just going to read what my mind tells me to read. So we're going to get into my first ever recent reads. But before we do that, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell notification so you don't miss out on when I post. And now, on to the video. First things first, if there is a spoiler, I'll have my little spoilers intro going in on this side, and it'll come on before the spoiler so you know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go back to the month of October, I guess, because I didn't really have that big of a reading month in November. Some of the books I'm not gonna talk about, like I'm not gonna talk about Legendborn because it was so long ago, I can't remember all my favorite details. I'm probably definitely gonna reread it. But that's basically the only book I'm not gonna talk about. So the first book I want to talk about is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and there are spoilers coming up for this, and really I just want to talk about it because y'all, that was wild. That was wild. That was insane. Like, this man has had relations with his sisters, with his cousins, with his nieces, probably with his daughters. Oh, and then the whole it was way too suspicious. It was, wow, I was disgusted. I could not. I was very I was done with that. That whole family. Okay, here's another thing, right? I don't understand, because this guy, he's like a eugenics nut. And so if he thinks that white people are the purest people, then why is he bringing in the Mexican women to his mess? Like, why are you bringing them into your mess? Please. I don't understand. It was just... And also, why did her father send her to go see about her cousin? Like, why would he don't do it? Like, you would send your daughter to live with some people that you think are crazy? Wouldn't have been me, but I mean, it accomplished its goal, which was to freak me out. So yes, I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I actually think I said like a 3.72 on Goodreads, but like that's so extra. So really that's just a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I want to talk about is Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. And can I just say, it's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Okay. So what did I love about it? The relationships, okay? If you know me, you know that I love fake relationship plots. You know I love them. They're so good. It's like, oh, we're going to pretend to date, and then we actually develop feelings, and now we're in love. I always love those plots. So that was one of my favorite components. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Yes. Okay. So Zaf and his family structure. So even though his dad and his brother have passed, he's still really close with his sister-in-law, and he's just, it's great. And then how he is fighting, well, how he has this nonprofit that aims to help guys and young boys like share their emotions and realize emotions are healthy, and also how to work that out with like rugby and stuff. Oh, it's adorable. It's great. Yes. I loved it. Iconic. 5 out of 5 stars. And Talia Hibbert, if you want to slide me act your age Eve Brown, I will totally read it. I'll totally read it right now. So all I gotta say. So the next book I want to talk about is A Reaper at the Gates, the 3rd book in an Ember in the Ashes series. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and yes, there will be intense spoilers. So we start off with this book, and we start off with only one piece of the stars left, which I hypothesized last book that Helene had. And we also have to, try to stop the Nightbringer. I mean, that's basically what we have to do. And Elias is now the new Soul Keeper. Okay, so let's just talk about the important parts because, wow, it was crazy. Okay, number one, when Sheva was killed by the Nightbringer, oh, I did not see that coming. Okay, I did not actually see that coming. I knew she was going to die. I just didn't know it was going to be like so soon. Next, okay, here's my biggest thing. Well, maybe one of my biggest things. Elias was not doing his job. And he didn't understand how his job had extreme repercussions until it was too late. So he literally cannot pass the ghost on because he hasn't merged with Moth. Your job as Soul Catcher, Soul Keeper, I can't remember what the name really is. Your job is to help the ghost pass on. You not doing that means you're a failure. Oh, wow, that sounded really rough. I mean, you not doing that is bad. And so when the ghost kept going out of the waiting place and they entered bodies and were possessing bodies, and then when the what team was it, when the Karkins, when they were possessing themselves, wow, it was just a whole mess that could have been prevented had he done his job. And I think he realized at the end, yo, I gotta do my job. I don't know what happens in Sky Beyond the Storm. I still haven't gotten that book through the library, so no spoilers in the comments, but I'm excited to find out. I just want to talk about 3 more things from this book. And the first is, oh my gosh, when Eliza's grandpa was, manning the fleets, and he was like, I was like, oh my gosh, it was so good. I was like, yes, you better man the fleets. You are Jens Venturis. Okay, you are. I'm so proud of Quinn. Amazing, iconic. Now, that was one of the only good things Helene did. Actually, maybe the only good thing Helene did, because Helene is, every time she goes against the Commandant, she loses. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is the revelation of Cook. Now, I predicted this. I knew that Cook was her mother. I predicted this. When I reread the first book, you'll never know that because I didn't post the blog. But I totally predicted it. And so, me just rereading it, I was like, I saw the signs. I did see the signs. Now, I don't understand, or maybe it makes sense. Yeah, I don't understand. Like, Cook felt like such turmoil, but it's like, I understand why she had to do it. I understand why she had to kill her husband and her kid because they were suffering and she wanted to end their suffering. It's just like in that book, Of Mice and Men. Spoiler for that if you haven't read it, but I mean, it's a classic, so you probably already read it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yes. And at the end, when she and Leia kind of have that rekindling of the relationship and it's good, and then she sacrifices herself, I don't believe it. Once again, if there is nobody, nobody is dead. That's my biggest belief. So, there's nobody, which means I don't think Cook's dead. She may be, but alas, I saw nobody. So, and the last thing I want to talk about is Helene. And if you know me, you know that I don't like Helene. I think she's a really flawed character, and I don't like her because I think she's really dumb. And by that I mean that she still hasn't realized that she's on Team Evil. The Empire is not good, and she keeps defending it like it's the most amazing thing ever. And when things happen to girls that she's not related to, she's like, they're enslaved, who cares? But when it's something that could threaten her and her family, she's like, don't you dare. I was like, that's my family. I was like, You can't champion sisterhood if you're not going to apply sisterhood to every single case. That's all I'm saying. And then she's just so stupid. Like, this empire believes that you killing all your friends is the mark of you being a good ruler. And you think that that's an empire you should fight for? Come on now. Come on. Let's think. And so she was also just, all the time she said, I care about my sister so much. She was never with her sister. Like, I understand when she was posted out somewhere, she couldn't do that. But right after her sister gave birth, her sister's like, stay with me. She's like, nah, fam, I'm gonna do something else. Stay with your sister. And at the end, we knew she was gonna give the Nightbringer the last piece of the mask. I thought that it actually was the ring. Turns out it wasn't. It was the mask. And I was like, wow, dang. I knew she was gonna do that. Because why she wouldn't let the Empire fall? Oh my gosh. The Empire's not worth it. And then also at the end, yes, I'm so proud of myself because I totally called the augurs being the scholars that did what they did to the Jinn. I was so proud of myself. I was like, I called it. Book one, yeah. I feel so good with myself when I call things like that. Now, if you know me, you know that I love this series, and I reread this series this year. I read the first one in October, the second two in November, and the last three I read in 3 days. I just read these last week, yeah. And I'm going to talk about some broad themes first before I go into each book. But basically, the entire series is 5 out of 5. I think the only book that I rated 4 out of 5 was the first one, Vampire Academy, just because it wasn't as good as I remembered it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the concept. I may get demonetized for this. Well, I'm not monetized at all, so hey. The first thing I want to talk about is the concept of the blood whore. Now, I read these books, and yet I still do not know if Richelle Mead was trying to shake the table and say that we shouldn't call women blood whores, or pushing a purity agenda. I have not determined that yet. I hope it's the former, but alas, I have not determined that yet. Next, this is probably my biggest critique. The relationship between Lissa and Rose is very toxic and it's not healthy. And I say this because from a young formative age, Rose has been told that the Moroi come first, and Lissa is a Moroi and she is a Hamper. So how many times can you be trained that the Moroi come first, that Lissa comes first? Like, how can that be a healthy relationship? Because all the time, you're having to put your best friend's interests above yours, right? So how can that be healthy if there's not that reciprocal, okay? If there's not that reciprocal motion. You literally have been trained to die for your best friend, right? Which is fine if that's your vibe. But your best friend hasn't been trained to die for you. And it seems like they regard your lives as futile. I'm going to talk about that next when I get to one of the books, actually. And so my biggest thing is, how can y'all really be friends? Because that just seems like too much of a power imbalance. Like, especially in, I think it was book 3, where Lissa was like, oh my gosh, you're in love? Shouldn't you know that your best friend is in love? Like, shouldn't you know these things? Like, how is it that you don't know that? Like, what are you doing, Sid? Like, what are you doing? I don't understand. And it's a bad relationship. It's very toxic. I can't remember, we're not going to see them much in Bloodlines. We only see them like a little bit. But I want to see, hopefully in the bits we see in Bloodlines, that, the relationship becomes healthy. Because as of right now, it's very unhealthy. And I don't think it's a good, sustainable relationship. I can't remember the other thing I want to talk about. Actually, I can. Yeah, I'm going to go into it. Demetria should be locked up. That's really all that has to be said. I mean, when I read this, I was, a meager girl and, middle school. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're true love. I do not care that Rose had to kill people. 17 is still 17 and 24 is still 24. If you have to do math to figure out if you should be dating someone, you shouldn't be dating them. And that's all I have to say. And you know what? It really upset me that only like 4 people cared about the whole age thing, which was Rose's mom, Rose's dad, and then these 2 DeHamper people when they found out. They were like, this is illegal. Everyone else was like, no. Like, no. Okay, time to go through each book. Book 1, Vampire Academy. This is basically the book where we find out that Victor is evil and trying to use Lissa's powers to restore him to his youth. Now, the main things I want to take away from this are the differences that we see in the movie. Like, number 1, they actually don't kill a cat. In fact, Lissa doesn't even have a cat. And then number 2, Lissa doesn't realize, in the book, Lissa doesn't realize that Rose likes Dimitri. In the movie, she does, which I applaud because it shows that their friendship has some salvaging qualities. Once again, I just don't understand the concept of blood whore. So they're basically saying that it's when a DeHamper girl allows herself to be bitten during the act. Now, my biggest thing is, if you're bitten, you have a release of endorphins. And when you bite someone, you enjoy it. So why is this stigmatized? I don't understand. It just seems like something created by Moroi girls who were petty and upset. Yeah. 2, Frostbite. Oh my gosh, this is so good. So there was this girl named Mia in the last book, and she was bullying Lissa, like bullies do. But her mom actually died in this book with the Strigoi attack. And Mia actually changed. She became a better person. But the problem is there are all these Strigoi attacks, and what happens is Mason, one of the DeHampers in Rose's class, thinks that he can handle the Strigoi. So he goes off to try to kill them with Christian, Mia, and Eddie. And Mason dies. So that sucks. And Rose has to, kill the Strigoi. It's really good. We actually get introduced to Adrian in this book. And I have to say something. I am so mad at myself because I did not understand. Actually, no. I did not appreciate the man that Adrian was when I first read this. I did not appreciate it. And so there's this one guy in middle school. I used to call him Adrian just because he was rich. And, Adrian's not a racist. Adrian doesn't have the Confederate flag as his screensaver. So I apologize to Adrian because I never should have made that comparison. And now I'm saying for all the internet to see that I'm sorry. But anywho, yes, Adrian is also a spirit user, which we find out. It's very good. Very amazing. 3, Shadow Kiss. Shadow Kiss to Rose. Shadow Kiss Anna. Okay, so I think it's in this book or maybe the previous book that we find out that Rose, I think it's actually in this book, it's the last book. Anyway, that Rose is taking the darkness away from Lissa, further proving that this relationship is not beneficial. Because even when Rose figures out that what she's doing will have a negative effect on herself, she doesn't care because she puts Lissa first. Because she's been trained that they come first. This is not a good relationship. Okay. In this book, what happens is a bunch of Moroi, they're trying to, use fire, use their magic powers to, defend themselves. But they're practicing these powers near the border. And because they're practicing all these powers, it's weakening the border. And so the Strigoi can get in. So Rose was able to be notified of this because she could see Mason's ghost. Because she's Shadow Kiss, she can communicate with ghosts. And so what happens is the Strigoi, storm the place. And they, try to kill people. And then Rose and Christian, kill a bunch of Strigoi. Christian with his fire power. And Rose with her skills. And so they do that. And then they stage a rescue mission. And this rescue mission ends up with Dimitri being taken by the Strigoi. And he was turned into a Strigoi. And so Rose is like, I'm leaving. I gotta kill my man. Because we said in book 1, if he were as a Strigoi, we want to die. So I gotta do that. It's so good. And then Lissa's like, you're so selfish. How could you do that? I was like, she's not selfish. You're selfish. All you've been is selfish, girl. You expect her to do everything for you. You need to do something for yourself. What have you done? Okay? Nothing. You can tell I don't like Lissa. Next. Oh, I love this book so much. It's Blood Promise. It's the book that first made me want to learn Russian. And this is because we take it to Russia. Oh yeah, and we meet Sydney. And if you read Bloodlines, you know what's up. And amazing. So Rose goes to Russia because she thinks that's where Dimitri will be because Mason told her that. So she has to go. So she's thinking about going to his hometown first to see if he's there. He's not there, but in the hometown, she basically stays with his family, his grandmother, his mother, his 3 sisters, his nephew, and his 2 nieces, I believe. Yes, I think it's 2 nieces and 1 nephew, or it might be 2 nephews and 1 niece. But anywho, she stays with them, and it's really cute, and I don't remember, but I really hope that Victoria sees what Rose was trying to do, because she was just trying to save Victoria, you know what I'm saying? In this, she finds Well, actually, Dimitri finds her, and he wants to turn her into Strigoi, but she's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to turn into Strigoi. And so she finally escapes from him. Now, while all this is happening in Russia, back in Montana, there is another spirit user named Avery. Her name's Avery. Avery's another spirit user. Avery is actually using spirit to make Lissa act recklessly. And we find out why is because she wanted Lissa to kill herself so she could bring Lissa back. So then she could be spirit bound to 3 people because she's spirit bound to Reed and her the hamper bodyguard. So clearly the girl needed help. And she and Adrian and Lissa and Adrian are able to, fight them off, also having Rose in Lissa's brain through the help of Oskana. Wow, amazing. Great book. Now I want to give you book 5, Spirit Bound. It's a great book. And basically there are some key developments we have in this book. Yes. So key development is bringing a Strigoi back from Strigoi into their former state. Everyone thinks Rose is crazy, but Rose ends up doing it and bringing Dimitri back from a Strigoi state into a hamper. This is also in Vegas where we get the first glimpse of Lissa's dad's infidelity, possible hints. And also, in order to turn Dimitri back, they have to break out Victor from the first book because Victor knows Robert. Robert's his half-brother. Key developments in here to note are the fact that the Moroi, this is also a huge thing that I forgot to mention. I can't, how do I say this without being profane, without being explicit? I figured it out. Okay, the Moroi are punks. You're telling me that you, a 35-year-old with firepower, feels comfortable letting an 18-year-old fight for you and possibly die for you because you don't want to use your own magic? Like, are you dumb? Like, that's one of the things that really frustrates me is the Moroi, right? And the reason why the Moroi sit back and they don't do anything is because they have the Hampers to fight for them. And the Hampers fight for them because, 1, that's all they've known. And 2, the Hampers can only reproduce with Moroi. So if the Moroi died, they're screwed. And I just think this is such a parasitic, manipulative relationship. Because defend yourself. Like, are you serious? Like, how are you crazy? And then in this book, they're like, let's lower the age of graduation from 18 to 16. What? And then there was this thing where we find out there were also some factions that wanted to compel the Hampers that weren't fighting into fighting. Like, why can't you learn to fight? Stop being so helpless. Like, literally, you guys suck. And not in the way that you probably want to, because you're vampires. Like, ugh. Okay. In this book, Rose is also dating Adrian. Oh, I forgot to mention her graduation, her trials. Oh, her trials were so cool. And the bridge. Oh, the bridge. Okay. Sorry, I had to just drop that in. Okay, so in the end, Queen Tatiana is murdered, and there's substantial evidence left by someone that Rose did it. So Rose is arrested and put on, and they put her the situation, and they put her, in a hearing, yes. So she has to go to a hearing, and they say there's enough evidence to push it to trial, and so, yes, they would execute her if they found her guilty, which they would intend to do. Book 6, Last Sacrifice. Oh, this is so good. So what happens is we have this huge mega breakout scene where we start off, we have to break Rose out, and we break her out during the funeral procession because we blow statues up, and then we blow an entrance up so that she and Dimitri can escape, and you know who helps them escape? Sydney! Oh my gosh, Sydney, yes, help them escape. We love you, Sydney. Okay, so we do a lot of things, and at first their jobs stay low, but that's not Rose's style. And so I forgot, in this book, while she's sitting in the cell, because that guy, what's his name? Ambrose, yeah, he gave her this letter from Queen Tatiana saying that Lissa was not the last Dragomir. Which reminds me, okay, so we have to go back to this book to establish what's going on. So there was the vote to lower the age from 18 to 16. The thing is, Lissa is the last royal of the Dragomir line, and the royals are the ones that get to vote. And each royal has a seat on the council that votes for these issues, right? And so Rose was like, this vote isn't even legal because you wouldn't let Lissa vote and she's 18. The problem is Lissa, because she's the last Dragomir, is the last Dragomir. You have to have a family in order to vote, right? So she can't vote, which is stupid and dumb. So, which is why it was important in the last book when we found out that she wasn't the last Dragomir because her dad was fooling around. You fooling around. Okay, never mind. Let me just calm down. So they decide, let's change plans. Let's find this let's find this child. Now, I forgot to mention, we meet this child in book 4, and she's amazing. Okay, back to the book. So they go on these adventures. Also, okay, they meet these people. I can't remember their name, but they're all living together in like a convent. So we have Moroi, the Hampers, and humans all living together. And, I kind of like it. The only thing is they are, hidden, not on the beaten path. They have no internet because, the alchemists want to keep them hidden. The alchemists, the group that Sydney is a part of course, the humans that hate all vampires and think all vampires are evil, even the Hampers and the Moroi. Now, so you meet them. They're cool. I like it. See, they actually fight for themselves, and the Strigoi don't bother them. Who'd have thunk? What a concept. How interesting. So here, we end up going to Michigan. So, who's in the house? Big Blue's in the house. Okay, let me calm down. Actually, in this book, I found out, I did some research that Richelle Mead actually went to Michigan, so go Blue. And we find out that Jill, who we met in book 4, is actually Eric's illegitimate child. And so they're and also Sonia Karp, they turned Sonia Karp back into a Moroi because Sonia Karp had information on who Jill was before they knew it. So they needed that information. Now the only thing was Victor and Robert, they were there because Robert turned Sonia back into Sonia the Moroi. Now, they stole Jill in Detroit. And so the other DeHampers were trying to kill Dimitri and Rose. So then they had to go, get Jill back. And Rose ended up killing Victor, which, y'all hear something? But clearly, apparently, she was bothered by that. So anywho, yes. So at this moment, because what happened in the end of book 5 was that Dimitri's like, don't let me near Rose. I never want to be near Rose. And clearly I'm a bad influence on Rose. And don't let Rose near me. I've hurt her. How could I ever be with her? In this book, he realizes that was stupid and that he's still in love with her. And we're like, yeah, duh. But also, like, she's 18 now. But before then, if you... I don't care. Like... Okay. And I think that's another thing is why I didn't like their romance. Mostly because I was like, this dude is sick and needs to be arrested. Like, okay, here's my thing. In book 3... Wait, no. Was it book 3? No, it was book 2. Yeah. In book 2, I think... Was it book 3? In either book 2 or 3, it was Victor's trial about, him manipulating Lissa. And Victor actually says, yo... If y'all got time, I need to investigate a case against Dimitri and Rose, against Dimitri for his, open a case for Dimitri for his relationship with Rose. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, shocked. I was like, is that not the case that every time a statement is made that you have to investigate that? Because even if it's a joke, it could be something serious. Like maybe that's just, they're humans, but someone said it in the court of law, I'm investigating, okay? Because it's better to be safe than sorry. It really is. Okay, but back to this. So apparently, Rose and Dimitri, they get together, even though Rose is still with Adrian. Adrian, you didn't deserve this. And mind you, we have 2 conspiracies in this book. And because I actually started remembering who it was, I was like, it's either Tasha or it's Adrian's mom, right? And there was substantial evidence for Adrian's mom. Like paying off the guy, the janitor guy, to lie about the time, paying him. And then there was the whole her being involved in Tatiana's fight group, even though she didn't want to do it. And then trying to protect her son from spirit, because if Lissa's gone and her voice is tampered, then she doesn't have to worry about her son because her son has spirit. So there was that. But then for some reason, like, because I remember that it was Tasha, I was like, but how does Tasha play into this? Because this evidence is leaning heavily towards Adrian's mom, right? And so there were like signs when like they would tell Tasha something. I was like, don't tell her, she's evil. I don't remember how, but I remember that she's evil. But yes. So what ends up happening is they use Michael, because Michael is in love with Sonia, so they help each other. And Michael and Rose sneak into the alchemist place because the alchemists have been taken captive. And they find out that it is in fact Tasha, because the Moroi that tried to kill Lissa was actually Tasha's bodyguard. Because royal Moroi that are respected get real bodyguards, and the Ozeras aren't respected because of what Christian's parents did, which is so stupid. Because no, this is not your legacy. This is not your destiny. Yesterday does not define you. Let me just pull in my Matthew West. It's fitting. You know, they play that in Vampire Diaries, and I'm talking about it with Vampire Academy. Even though it was about a werewolf. Never mind. So, that happens. And, okay, in the end, we find out Tasha did it. We have evidence. And really, Tasha blamed Rose once again because Tasha was so bitter that Dimitri chose Rose instead of her. Yikes. Can you imagine being that bitter? And so in the end, Tasha, is shooting her gun like crazy, and she's about to kill Lissa, and Rose, because they come first, jumps in front of Lissa and almost dies. Now, I don't really like this whole concept of her healing herself. I think that's a little bit of a cop-out and weird. That Lissa definitely would have healed her, and I think Lissa should have healed her. Would have made more sense. So whatever they said kind of made no sense. I'm just going to ignore that. But what I can say is it's a great series. I love it. And I think that if you remember that Dimitri is not the hero, at least until after she's 18, then you'll find some joy. You'll find some joy. These are great characters. Great story. Once again, I'm still very upset. I wish that there would have been something to let me know what Richelle Mead was saying. Was she saying, was she forcing purity culture, or was she trying to make a statement? I can't tell. So I wish I would have been able to tell. That's really all I have to say. But yes, love it. Now I gotta read Bloodlines. I would purchase these covers, and I actually saw all of them together, which is so rare. I saw all of them together at Books A Million like last week, and it sucks because I would love to buy this next series because I think it's so much better, especially with the love interest that we have. Oh, they're gonna be so perfect. But the problem is, you see these covers, they are so ugly, and I refuse to put ugly covers on my bookshelf. So anyway, that concludes my recent reads. I hope you enjoyed this format. I'm going to try to do more about these, but obviously in order to do that, I have to read more books. So let me stop talking to you and get back to reading. But before you go, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell notification so you don't miss out on when I post. And now, all that's left to say is bye-bye.